Welcome back. We are on the topic quadratic functions. In the previous video, we learned some basic things about quadratic expressions. In this video, we are going to learn how to factorize a quadratic trinomial. Factorizing quadratic trinomials. A quadratic trinomial is a quadratic expression with three terms. So quadratic trinomials are of the form ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are constants and a is not equal to 0. We learned about this in the previous video. So a quadratic expression with three terms is known as a quadratic trinomials. And this is the general form of a quadratic trinomial, ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are constants and a is not equal to 0. In order to factorize a quadratic trinomial, the first thing you have to do is to compare the quadratic trinomial to ax squared plus bx plus c for the values of a, b, and c. So when you are given a quadratic trinomial to factorize, the first thing you have to do is to compare the quadratic trinomial that you have been given to the general form of a quadratic trinomial, which is ax squared plus bx plus c. And this will help you to get the values of a, b, and c. After that, you multiply a by c, so you have a times c. This means that after you have the values of a, b, and c, you multiply a, which is the coefficient of the square term, by c, which is the constant. So you multiply a by c. After multiplying a by c to get a times c, you find two numbers that will give you a times c when you multiply and b when you add. So you find two numbers that will give you a times c when you multiply them and b when you add. After finding those two numbers, you replace b with those numbers and then factorize the expression. You are going to apply what you have studied here to solve a question and you get it very clearly. So don't worry if you don't understand it now. You are going to use these steps to solve a question. After that, you are going to get it very clearly. So here are some questions for us. Factorize the following. We have been given 4 questions. We will solve the first one in this video and we will solve the others in the next video. Let's begin with the first one. X squared plus 11x plus 30. We are being told to factorize this quadratic trinomial. We have learned that if you want to factorize a quadratic trinomial, the first thing you have to do is to compare the quadratic trinomial that you have been given to the general form of a quadratic trinomial. The general form of a quadratic trinomial is ax squared plus bx plus c. So you compare the quadratic trinomial that you have been given to this general form. So we compare it. We are comparing ax squared plus bx plus c with x squared plus 11x plus 30. Now you can see that a will be the coefficient of x squared. So here the coefficient of x squared is 1. So a will give us 1. B is the coefficient of x. So b will give us 11. And c is the constant, so c will give us 30. Now, by comparing this quadratic trinomial with the general form of a quadratic trinomial, we can see that a is giving us 1, b is giving us 11, and c is giving us 30. So now we have the values of a, b, and c. The next step says that we should multiply a by c. A is 1, c is 30. So a times c will give us 1 times 30, which will give us 30. So now we have the value of A times C to be 30. Now let's go to the third point. The third point says that after you have found A times C, you will find two numbers that will give you A times C when you multiply them and B when you add. A times C is 30. This means that we are going to look for two numbers that will give us 30 when we multiply them and 11 when we add. So we are looking for two numbers that will give us 30 when we multiply and 11 when we add. You will get those two numbers from the factors of A times C. A times C is giving us 30. So we are going to get these two numbers from the factors of 30. So let's list the factors of 30. The factors of 30 are 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15, and 30. So among these set of numbers, we are going to have two numbers that when we multiply, we will get 30, and when we add them, you get 11. So you look through them. We are looking for two numbers that when we multiply, we get 30, we add, we will get 11. You can see that those two numbers from this set are 5 and 6, because 5 times 6 will give us 30. 5 plus 6 will give us 11. So the two numbers we are looking for are 5 and 6. Now, after you have found those two numbers, that is 5 and 6, you replace B with those two numbers. So here B is 11. So we are going to replace 11 with these two numbers. The two numbers are 5 and 6. So we are going to replace 11x with 5x and 6x. Let's do that. So x squared plus 11x plus 30x will be equal to x squared plus, we are replacing 11x with 5x and 6x. So plus 5x plus 6x plus 30. Our expression is now broken down, so we can put them into brackets and simplify. We will put a bracket around the first two terms. So we put a bracket around x squared plus 5s. Then we will put a bracket around the last two terms. So we put a bracket around 6x plus 30. Between x squared and 5x, the common factor is x. So we will bring x out of the bracket. We will have x into bracket x plus 5. Between 6x and 30, the common factor is 6. So you bring 6 out of the bracket, you have x plus 5. Now you can see that in the first bracket here, we have x plus 5. In the second bracket, we have x plus 5. So you pick one of them, x plus 5. Then you pick the x here plus 6 here into another bracket. So we have x plus 5 in one bracket, then x plus 6 in another bracket. We learned how to do all these factorizations in the videos on algebraic expressions. So watch those videos and you're going to have further explanation on how to factorize an expression. So after factorizing this quadratic trinomial, we can see that x squared plus 11x plus 30 is equal to x plus 5 in one bracket, then x plus 6 in another bracket. Now you can see that when factorizing a quadratic trinomial, the main job will be finding those two numbers that will give you A times C when you multiply and B when you add. In the videos on algebraic expressions, I made a video on how to use your calculator to find those two numbers. It is the video number 10 in the playlist of algebraic expressions. So if you want to know how to use your calculator to find those two numbers, go to the playlist of algebraic expressions and look for the video number 10. The title of that video is Calculator Trick in Solving Quadratic Trinomials. In that video, I explained how to use your calculator to find those two numbers that will give you A times C when you multiply and B when you add. So if you want to learn how to use your calculator to do that, please go to the videos on algebraic expressions and watch the video number 10. The title of that video is Calculator Trick in Solving Quadratic Trinomials. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe to this channel for more videos. We had 4 questions at the beginning of this video. We have solved the first one. In the next video, we are going to solve the 3 remaining questions. Bye-bye.